All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 107 of Fantasy Timeline, a proud member of the Dynasty Addicts Podcast Network. I'm Josh at Real Fantasy TL. I'm with the co-host with the most, Drew at DR_PRA. Drew, man, we had a break. We got to enjoy Thanksgiving, just recharging the batteries now for the fantasy stretch run. How was your holiday and how's everything going, man?
It's good. It's hard to believe it's been 2 weeks since we did this last. Thanksgiving was good. I am definitely a little heavier now than before, and it was well worth it, though. That is one of my favorite times of the year. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm with you 100%, man. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. I know that's kind of sacrilegious. It's supposed to be Christmas or something like that, but man, you get to hang out with family. There's way too much food. There's football on the TV. It's a great time, man. I love it. So, uh, all right, man. Let's get into it. Let's do this. I'm gonna switch up the order a little bit as opposed to what we normally do, so I don't forget about this at the end of the show. Want to shout out the fantasy timeline eliminator for Fantasy Cares. We've all been in it this year. We've all been eliminated this year. But this isn't about us. This is about the two men that came. They tried to conquer, but unfortunately, it did not work out for them. So Larry Monkey at Larry Monkey and Jake Earl at the Jake Earl. By the way, I love putting the right in front of it. The Jake Earl. Just you gotta let them know that you're the original. You're the only one. But unfortunately, you are the only Jake Earl that got eliminated. So sorry, fellas, you guys are out. But we appreciate you coming through, having a good time, and doing the Fantasy Cares Eliminator with us. Ridley Truther jumping in here. Welcome back, boys. Thank you. It's good to be back. It's good to see you back, Ridley. I can't wait. I want to do this thing. I want to get going. So we've had a couple weeks to sit down and marinate on this, Drew. It is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, Drew, why don't you start us off, man? What was good about this last week?
What was good is getting that Thursday win out of the way for the Bills and seeing Josh Allen and the boys in prime time. Josh Allen, 23 to 28. I know everybody thought he was such a big project, he'd never get there. And last year and this year, he's maintaining some of that completion percentage. 300 all-purpose yards, 260 throwing, and 4 touchdowns. Good to see him do it with the arm this week and not feel like he's got to take it on himself to run all over the place. So that was a really nice end to a Thanksgiving holiday, was to get home, turn on that game, and watch the Bills handle some business.
Yeah, man. That was a hell of a game. That was just a beatdown on the New Orleans Saints. It just from beginning to end, offense and defense, it was domination. I mean, we'd seen the Bills the last couple of weeks. We were kind of wondering, like what's going on with them? Are they going to be able to, to do it? And they came out and they said, "Don't be alarmed. We're fine. We're back in this thing." And it's going to be fun because they have a couple games against the division leading New England Patriots. Sorry, got my news mixed up there. But you know, I feel good for the Patriots. It's been so long for them since they've seen the division title. So I'm glad this young upstart team has pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and have finally seen that light after many year of not being there. So good for them. But a couple of matchups to end the season. I think both games are going to be really fun. So I'm excited to see that. My good was Leonard Fournette. 17 rushes for 100 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Then he just throws on 7 receptions for 31 yards and a receiving touchdown. It's almost like you have to spin a wheel every week and figure out which running back is going to score way too many touchdowns. 2 weeks ago, it was JT. This week, it was Leonard Fournette. Man, it's amazing because we looked at the Bucks and we thought the Bucks were going to be this open it up, 4 wide if you count Gronk, just throw it all over the yard, and that's what it was going to be. And AB gets hurt. Chris Godwin's dealing with some nagging stuff. Gronk is hurt. And they've just done this complete 180, and they've transformed themselves into this running attack that is led by Leonard Fournette. And they're winning. It would be one thing if they were stinking it up, but they are winning. And whether you like Tom Brady or you don't like Tom Brady, he's flipped the script. They just keep winning, and it's going to be interesting to see once they get into the playoffs what's going to happen. Does AB get healthy and come back? It looks like Gronk, and even though Gronk didn't have any touchdowns, he had over 100 yards receiving. Do they switch back another 180 and go back to being the passing team for the playoffs, or do they just run you ragged with Kamara? It's going to be interesting, and I can't wait to see it. Let me throw the bad in here. Cam Newton. A couple weeks ago, he said he's back. Yes, he is. He is back to being that quarterback that we slammed when he was in New England. Not good. 5 for 21. That's he didn't play AA. That's not plate appearances. That is 5 completed passes in 21 attempts for 92 yards and 2 interceptions. And you go, maybe he did it on the ground. Maybe, 5 yards rushing. So, yeah, Cam, you're back. And you were back long enough to have PJ Walker come back out and clean that game up because we didn't want to see it anymore. And it amazes me. I look at this team. I look at a team like the Denver Broncos. They both had opportunities to draft a Justin Fields or Mac Jones, and they didn't do it. They both actually went with corners. And you look at those teams and go, wow, those teams could be really good if only they had a quarterback. And they had the opportunity to get a quarterback. So it's going to be very interesting during this offseason. Both of those teams are, we hear Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, all these quarterbacks that might be available. It'll be interesting to see what happens with these teams and if they can finally bring that quarterback in to unlock offenses that are actually pretty well built besides the quarterback position. Talk to me about your bad, Drew.
Yeah, my bad's not quite that bad, but for all the hype he was starting to build, and I think he was changing some people's minds here the last few weeks, Jalen Hurts stunk it up against the division rival Giants this week, and it was a rough few clips to watch there, but 14 to 31, so under 50%, 129 yards and 3 interceptions. Unlike Cam, he did salvage a little bit of his day with, I think, 70 or 80 rushing yards, but I saw a lot of people online that were starting to come around and maybe thinking, maybe this is his team next year, ride this guy through the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. But, they always play tough in division, but it was really hard to watch that. And a couple of my teams that I needed him to at least be decent this week didn't come through. So that felt really bad.
Yeah, and it's interesting because 2 weeks ago they had blown out. Forgetting the team now. Anyway, they'd blown out somebody. They had put up 40 points again, and we were like, "Oh man, their schedule for the end of the season looks really good. They have the Giants, they have the Washington football team, they have the Jets, and one game against Dallas. Like this is a team that can make the playoffs. And being a Dallas Cowboys fan and knowing what the NFC is like, I said we might want to pump the brakes because as much as we may believe that the Eagles are better, well, they are better than the Giants. So I'll put that out there right now. And how they may be better than the Washington football team. I said those games are always tough. Those games always make you rip your hair out because the team that's supposed to win ends up not winning. And I have seen bad Washington football teams and bad Giant teams keep my Dallas Cowboys out of the playoffs because we lost games to them at the end of the season, which we obviously should have won. So I said, I think we should pump the brakes. And a lot of people told me I was nuts. And I go, I get it. But, and here comes loss number one to the Giants. Now, they follow up with the Jets. And I think, the Jets are a very bad team. So I think they win that game. But they still have two against the Washington football team, who, by the way, they're on a run. They beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that we spoke about earlier. Mm-hmm. They just pulled it out against Seattle on Monday night. This is a team that you can't overlook. I'm not saying they can't be beaten because Philadelphia could definitely come in there, but I don't think Philly wins two against Washington. They probably win one. They could also lose both. And I think if Jalen Hurts does not lead this team to the playoffs, I don't think he is the quarterback next season. And you can say that's fair or unfair. I'm not going to argue fairness or not fair. But this just kind of seems like we had issues with Carson Wentz. We got him out. We don't have any real backup plan. We're going to put Jalen Hurts out there. And Jalen Hurts has looked great at times. I don't want to sit here and slam him. But he's had games like this too. And if this ends up being a team that doesn't make the playoffs, I think they go in another direction. And it may not be just at quarterback. They may have a new general manager. There may be a lot of moving pieces that lead to a new quarterback coming to town. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on. Drew, hit us with your ugly, man.
Well, the ugly came from the aforementioned Seattle game. DK Metcalf, best player on the Seahawks right now. Didn't get his first catch until the 2-minute drill at the end. 4 targets all game, 1 catch and 14 yards. So I don't know if that's I don't put all that on him. I'm sure some of that is the play calling and whatever Russ was thinking there. But I know a lot of people, depending on him, Monday night, this is my chance to make my comeback. Maybe I played Leonard Fournette, but the rest of my team made up for it, and I just need a little bit of a boost on Monday night, and definitely did not get it. Some disappointed people out there in the Twitterverse. So I'm sorry if you had him. It's been a rough year. I think Russ he made a couple of really weird decisions, took a couple sacks that I don't think he would have ever taken before in his career, and just didn't really give DK a chance to get much going. So feel bad for him, but that was a tough game to watch for him.
Yeah, it was interesting watching that game because obviously, apparently, according to what the timeline was supposed to be with his injury, he wasn't supposed to come back until this week, actually coming up. And he's been back for 2 games, and he looks like someone who came back too early from an injury. And I get it. We want all of our athletes to be tough and come back and fight through it. But this is a finger on his throwing hand as a quarterback. It's kind of like that's maybe something you should have 100% before you come back. And it's shown that it's not 100% right now. Let's see what happens. Maybe this is the week that he was supposed to come back. Everything heals up the way it's supposed to, and he's back to Russ. But it's a scary proposition, and a lot of people playing. If you're playing in redraft, you can probably get off of Russ pretty easy. There's probably guys on your waiver wire that you can roll with. Dynasty, I think it's a little different. I don't know what your options are, besides making a trade. And what, you can't trade Russ for anything near what his value should be because it's been bad. And you're probably going to have to get a Jimmy Garoppolo, a Derek Carr, something like that, just to fill in and like get you some semblance of point. I mean, it's bad right now if you're in Dynasty and you're a Russ owner. So uh T's and P's, DK Metcalf owners, T's and P's for this week because I didn't understand why DK Metcalf wasn't getting the ball. I mean, I have Tyler Lockett in one league that I'm contending in, so I love seeing the yardage totals. But I mean, that guy's a monster. I don't know how his you don't get him a reception until near the end of the fourth quarter of a football game. I don't understand it, but maybe this week will be different. We'll try to put a positive spin on it. My ugly was just the injuries, and they started so early. Thursday, we're sitting down on the couch. We just got to a family member's house, or maybe the family members just started filing into our houses, and hooray! It's Detroit versus Chicago. It's not the game we wanted, but it's the game we got. And Swift goes down, and we're like, oh, and he doesn't come back. Okay. Now today we hear it looks like it's going to be a few weeks, and I think Detroit's doing the smart thing. I think they know their season is going nowhere this year. They're going to make sure Swift is 100% before they put him back out there, if they even put him back out there again this season. They're doing the right thing for the long term future of their team. But we started with Swift, and then we got CMC, who's done for the season. We have Dalvin Cook, who looks like he's going to be gone for at least 2 weeks, possibly longer. I even heard someone today say they wouldn't be shocked if Dalvin Cook did not play again this season, just due to the fact that shoulder dislocations can get nasty sometimes, and they are flirting with the last wild card spot, which I think the aforementioned Washington football team took from them with the win on Monday. So we'll see what happens there. Debo gets hurt. His looks to be a little bit more minor. Maybe he misses a week. Maybe he misses two. But man, these injuries, and especially to the quarterback position, like if you've had one quarterback on your team that has just made it through, hasn't been hurt, hasn't felt the pain, you've done pretty well. Because I mean, from top to bottom, just about every first round caliber running back has been hurt. Now they're talking about maybe lessening Zeke's role just to keep him healthy for the playoff run, which again is smart. If you are, the Cowboys aren't a lock to get into the playoffs yet, but they have a 2-game lead. They should be getting some of their receivers back, so hopefully that offense can get back to doing what it was doing before COVID and injuries. You do want to rest those guys. You do want to make sure that that you're ready to go. But man, I mean, just the running backs have been all the zero RB people have come out of the woodwork because they're like, look at all these. But it's happening to receivers too. I mean, we look at AJ Brown, we look at Debo, we look at Antonio Brown, we look at it's just like we can go through that list too. Robert Woods, and Rashad Bateman was a rookie that we were all pretty high on. It's just been everywhere this year. So, let's hope that the injury bug stays away from the NFL for the rest of the season and no more of our big studs get hurt. But before we go into the timeline, we got a question here from Ridley Truther. I wanna pick your brain about it, Drew. If you got Kamara on a contending team, but with injuries you're out of it this season, are you just holding and riding till the wheels fall off? I don't know if he can be traded for another contending player. Well, this is interesting because you feel like your team is a contender, and we just talked about this. Injuries have plagued pretty much every position. So maybe you're a guy with AJ Brown hurt, with Robert Woods hurt. Maybe you have a bunch of running backs. We were starting this early with Travis Etienne and J.K. Dobbins. Maybe you had those guys with
Mhm.
Kamara. Um, I think it all depends on what you can get. Kamara looks like he's going to play on Thursday against Dallas. So if he does play and he has a big game, shop him to contenders. He's he's a guy that you may be able to get a lot out of because a lot of the experts say that he doesn't rely on his speed, it's contact balance, it's his efficiency. So a contender may say, "Oh, this is a guy that not only helps me this year, but helps me for a couple more years." But make sure if you're trading Kamara and you truly think you have a team that just wasn't in it this year because of injuries, if you're going to trade him, make sure you get a haul. Don't just trade him for a first round pick and a second round pick and go on your way because that you're probably taking a loss on that.
Mhm.
But if someone is willing to give you, let's say, J.K. Dobbins and a first, if someone is willing to give you, let's say, Elijah Mitchell a first and something else, deals like that where you get a little bit younger at the position with guys that probably have some good insulated value on their team, plus picks or plus another young player. Yeah, go for that. Get that, but don't just give them up because somebody says I got a first here for you. I'm like, cool. Like, I, I can get a first for Kamara at any time. I can do better. So I would keep them unless you get kind of a deal that knocks you off of your feet. What do you think about it, Drew?
Yeah, I think I'm in that group who thinks he's got a couple of good years left, or a few good years even, based on his skill set and how they use him. I don't know that Taysom Hill is the long term solution in New Orleans. So as limited as he might be right now, he's a guy I'd be fishing for him if I didn't have him on my team, whether I'm contending or not. If I thought I was a year out, and maybe I think next year I could be really good. If I had a solid running back and I don't want to take a shot at the draft because I don't know what 2022 holds, I'd be interested to see what the current Kamara manager wants for him because I think he could play to 30, 31, 32 and be effective still. He may not be Darren Sproles or somebody like that that'll give you value long term, or Danny Woodhead maybe, but he could be. He could have a couple more years of elite production where he's still an RB1, and then if the last 2 or 3 years of his career he's a solid RB2, you could do a lot worse. I think his career could be as long as some of the guys that we draft this coming up draft in 2022. He could be relevant as long as some of those guys that maybe we take in the first, second round, depending on how things turn out for them. So I would be inclined to hold on to him. There's a short list of guys. Dobbins is a guy I'd be interested in seeing. If I can get Dobbins plus, sure. If it's Dobbins straight up, again, I think they could probably, they might match each other's production over the next 4 or 5 years. So, maybe get an Akers in a first or something like that if you want to take a risk on him coming back healthy. There's already videos of him working out now, so we'll get ahead of the hype there. Or turn him into maybe a younger wide receiver. If you can get a Waddle or somebody that seems to be turning on here, and somebody needs a running back to make the push this year, get another player that has at least the same timeline, if not longer, for a different position. But I'm with Josh that you want to get good value still. Kamara is not a guy that's just going to have a cliff that he drops off of in his career here.
Yeah, and New Orleans is actively trying to maximize his window as well. I mean, they traded for Mark Ingram, and Alvin Kamara is that type of guy, and that's not a slight on him. That's not an insult to him. But you don't want Kamara getting 20 rushes and 5 receptions a game. You want him in those limited doses because he's just so efficient and he's so good at what he does. And, I don't know if Mark Ingram, what his contract looks like, but if he's there next year as well, he's going to stay. If not, I think New Orleans is going to try to get a guy like Mark Ingram, just, just that thunder and lightning, man. It's worked so well for New Orleans for such a long time that they're going to keep doing it, and I think that's just going to prolong Alvin Kamara's career as well. So yeah, keep him unless you get the good deal, and then at that point, I can't blame you. Just let him go. But all right, Drew, let's do this thing, man. Let's get onto the timeline, man. What did we see? What are we talking about? What are people talking about? And this first one is a big one, I think. Clinic Cap at Clinic Cap, former guest on the show, really cool dude. He's saying, where are you drafting CMC next season? As I said earlier, CMC went back on the injured reserve, which means he is gone for the rest of the season. And what do we do, Drew? I mean, we had all the ups and downs last year, mostly downs, not too many ups. And we had a lot of the same this year. A lot of ups and downs, but more downs than up. Is he still going to be RB1 off of the board?
Mm-mm.
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 Mm-mm. Where is he going? And you don't have to give me an exact spot, but give me a range.
We're talking like season long next year.
Let's talk dynasty startup.
Nice.
Well,
Okay.
because I think dynasty startup it will encompass what we think about him for the next 3 years.
I don't think he goes in the first round next year. I'm not taking him until maybe if I'm early in the first, I hope he falls to me maybe late in the second. But even then, there's enough young talent around, and after a guy's done this for a couple of years in a row at his position, it's one thing to see, Adrian Peterson go and blow out his knee, be out for the season, then come back. One injury, one season out, rebound. To have these on and again, off again, that's just not a healthy relationship, Josh. You don't go and find a partner that you're on again and off again with unless you got some issues going on there. So I think any healthy managers out there are going to realize you've got to wait quite a while to get the value, and I don't think other people will let you get the value that you should get in the draft for him. Ideally he'd be my RB2 at the end of the third round or something like that.
So where do you think he is going to get drafted? Like RB what? We said obviously it ain't gonna be RB1. So
I think he'll be. Oh man, I can think of plenty of guys that I would prefer to take a shot on in Dynasty before him. I think a guy like him, Dalvin Cook, they'll both drop into maybe the 7 to 10 range, 8 to 10 range, RB8, RB9, RB10, somewhere in there. I want Jonathan Taylor as my RB1. I want him first and foremost in any format. And then behind him, gosh, I haven't even put together a list yet for next year, but I want guys like Swift again if he's there. I want guys like Najee for the next couple of years. He's shown what he can do already, even though he's a little bit older. I know I've got him missing a couple of others. I want Javonte pretty early. We talked about him a couple weeks ago. So as a young guy that's got a really good burst, that could be a key player in his offense. And then then guys like I would debate Mixon over CMC next year. With what he's showing, if he ends this season healthy, I'd probably want Eckler over him next year if he's healthy for the rest of the season. So I don't see him going until closer to RB 7, 8, maybe, for people that want to get a little bit, they think they're getting the value there.
yeah, so it's interesting because obviously we just got into December, so I was on DLF ADP for the month of November, and obviously this is mostly before the injury. We found out I think yesterday, so pretty much the whole month he was fine. He was going RB5, so that number is going to take a nosedive. He's going to miss the last 5 weeks of the regular season, and the narrative is going to be, and whether you agree with it or you don't, the narrative is going to be 2 straight years, lots of injuries, lots of games missed. Yes, when he is in, he is a monster. He is elite. But what if Sam Darnold is the quarterback again for the Carolina Panthers? And you can say to me that sounds crazy, but they bypassed Justin Fields and Mac Jones for Sam Darnold. So we can't sit here and say it's impossible because we've seen it. We've seen teams stick with bad quarterbacks because of loyalty, because of the investment they have. I mean, look at your backup quarterback there in Buffalo, Mitch Trubisky. Chicago stuck with him because they said we used the number 2 overall pick on him. Like we have to stick with them. We have to try to make this work. And not only did the Panthers give up draft capital to get Sam Darnold, but they guaranteed his 5th year. So they're paying him, I think, like $25 million next year or something like that. Something crazy. So, I mean, they have things invested in Sam Darnold. So it's not insane to say they're just going to let him sit on the bench. They're going to draft somebody. They're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers. They're going to bring in Deshaun Watson. And that's the end of the story. It may not happen. It may be Sam Darnold for 1 more year. And at that point, how do you feel about CMC? Probably feel even worse. So
yeah, I don't. He's the type of guy though too that I mean he's had up and down quarterbacks the whole time, and he's a special athlete. But if you're trying, even you have a longer season now, right? You have another game each year you've got to account for. So yeah, I just don't. For those first couple of rounds or so, you want to feel really good about who you're putting in your roster. And full disclosure, this is a guy that I think 3 years ago I spent the 206 or something in a startup super flex on Baker Mayfield. So I've been there. I've been in that moment where this is my guy. But I think we've seen enough out of CMC at this point that I am more than willing to pass that risk on to the next person in my draft.
yeah, I'm with you there. If I can get some kind of crazy value on him, I'll take him. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I'll always take that value. But I think CMC is going to be one of those guys that, even though we pretty much know what the narrative is going to be, we also know there's going to be that one guy in your draft that goes, nope, CMC is going to be that guy this year. Had a couple of bad years with the injuries. This is going to be his year, though. I'm taking him. I'm going to win this league. I got him at RB, let's just say 7. Instead of maybe ADP makes him RB12, RB14, something like that. But he takes him at RB7 because he knows better. He knows that CMC is the running back that will buck the trend with all the injuries. He will have a healthy season, and he will take him to the promised land. And by the way, if he stays healthy for all 17 games, he will take you to the promised land because of where you get him plus what he will give you. It's practically a league winner, but you're betting on some long odds, I feel like, at that point. So, it is what it is. But that's a good one. That's a good one, Cap. I mean, I know I'm not going to be rushing to the podium to put in the Christian McCaffrey card when I do startups next year. I may draft him. I may have him in some leagues, but it's going to be because I got value on him, not because I beat everyone to the punch. So that's a good one. Yeah, I feel like you said you feel like he's probably going to be like RB 10 to 12-ish. I'm a little bit lower. I think he's going to be RB 12 to 14-ish. So we're pretty similar. I'm a little bit lower, but not crazy lower than you are, but I think just knowing the way you draft, Drew, being in some leagues with you and knowing the way I draft, I don't think either one of us are going to have very many startup Christian McCaffrey shares next year. So, so good luck to the people who do take them. This next one is from Kime, I want to say. at Rangers, please, PLS win. Pick two. I'm assuming for this week, uh, Amari Cooper, CEH, Van Jefferson, or Darnell Mooney. I think if Cooper plays, looks like he's been activated off of the COVID-19 list, but he is questionable. If he does play, which I think he will, it would be Cooper and Mooney. If for some reason the Cowboys decide he's not ready, the time off combined with whatever he had to deal with while he had COVID is too much for him to play this Thursday. I would go with CEH and Mooney. What are you thinking, Drew?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to pick Amari Cooper if he's playing. I mean, Dak had a stellar week last week as well. I thought about putting him in my good as well. So you get a full complement there. If anything, maybe they've got too much competition again in Dallas with Gallup back. So I could see, shying away from that. But it's hard. The guy has got such a high ceiling. 3 or 4 good plays, and he could win your week for you. Yeah, I think I agree. I'd go Cooper and Mooney if Cooper is not 100%, or maybe you just want to fade Dallas unless you've got Dak. CEH would be the other one. That'd be my pivot as well. I think it should be a good game, hopefully a high-scoring game this week for the Chiefs. Should get enough opportunities, whether it's on the ground, a couple of dump offs here or there. And then, Mooney has just he's been hot lately, been getting open, been getting some good looks. Looked like Fields was connecting with him for a little bit. And then, of course, Dalton has found him. So it seems like he's good no matter which quarterback starts there. So hard to sit him. And, Van Jefferson's just so boomer bust. I love the guy. I drafted him last year late, and I was real excited based on some of the things I read about him coming out. And he's had a couple of those games this year that he's been really good. It's just so hard to decide which games are going to be him. You see OBJ catch his first deep pass to go for a score from Stafford. So you wonder if that's starting to heat up a little bit, and maybe he's getting a second win for his career here. So, I think you can flip a coin between CEH or Cooper, depending on what you like there. And then I feel like Mooney's a lock for me.
Yeah, I hot take here. I think Mooney may have just absorbed Allen Robinson's talent, because we haven't seen Allen Robinson for the last couple of weeks due to injury, and honestly, we didn't see him the beginning part of the season anyway. And all of a sudden, Darnell Mooney, since this injury, has just kind of turned into Allen Robinson a little bit. So I'm not saying there's any shenanigans afoot, but yeah, man, I don't even know what to say about Allen Robinson. He makes me sad.
It's tough.
Let's move on to the next one, and I love these questions, Kime, and this next one from City Messiah at City Messiah. Both they just responded to the question tweet I put out every Wednesday. Milk or cream in your coffee? City Messiah. I don't drink coffee, so it will be neither for me. Drew, I don't know if you're a coffee drinker, but if you are, is it the milk or is it the sugar?
I am a coffee drinker most of the year. It is definitely not milk unless I have to. And for me, it's usually half and half. So either creamer or half and half, but keep the sugar with all the international delight and stuff to yourself. I'm good with just a little bit of a extra fat in there, and I'll take the half and half with my coffee.
There you go. So I guess technically, I guess technically you're team cream, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm team I don't drink coffee, so yeah, I understand it makes me strange, but I don't drink the stuff. All right, so here's another one from our man. We talked about him in the chat a little bit earlier. Put one of his questions up, and we got another one that he tweeted at us. Really truther at CWC Wood 1. Member of the FTC. If you don't know what the FTC is, the Fantasy Timeline Chat. If you want in, just hit one of us up at our handles, or Bill at Super Dupaflex. He's chilling in Miami, just relaxing this week. So shout out to Bill. Or just hit us up at Fantasy Timeline and just say, hey, I want in, and we'll put you in. It's a good time, a lot of good people, a lot of talking. People are always asking about trades, start sits, all kinds of stuff. It's a lot of fun. So if you want to get in on that, just let us know. But he says Schultz or Monroe on Sunday if Waller is out. So this is a two-parter. So let's hit the first part first. Are we going with Schultz or Monroe if Waller doesn't play? Now, the problem with this question is Schultz plays on Thursday. So if you go Team Schultz, then unless you're going to slide Waller into a flex spot, this could get a little difficult for you. But I don't want to influence Drew one way or the other. If I knew somehow before the Thursday game that Waller was not going to play, I think I would go with Monroe. He's been pretty good in the limited time he's been able to play without Darren Waller. It seems like that offense just runs through the tight end no matter who is lined up at that spot. So if I knew Cooper was going to be out, I think I would switch it to Schultz. But if they have everybody back, CeeDee Lamb is on track to play after his concussion. It looks like, even though he's questionable, it looks like Cooper's going to play as well. Gallup is back. I just don't see where Schultz gets enough targets to be fantasy worthy. But if for some reason Cooper can't go, it's Schultz. But most likely it would be Monroe in this situation. What do you think, Drew?
That's tough. I like Schultz a lot. I think he got bailed out. He got a touchdown called back because of a silly penalty. Then he got bailed out with a late touchdown. They got him with a 2 point. So he salvaged his day. I'd have to look at his target count to see. But yeah, there's only so many targets to spread around there. So I get that. If you had a crystal ball and you knew that Waller was out, sure, Monroe could be a fine start. Looking back to last week, that offense ran through one Hunter Renfrow, which was wild to see as well. I totally forgot about him for the good. I think he had a career high day on catches and yards there. So, and Derek Carr has quietly compiled a very good season, a bunch of 300-yard games where it seems like there's enough to go around to a guy like Monroe. Bryan Edwards is not absorbing as many targets as maybe we had hoped he would. You have Deshaun Jackson who's getting a couple of his deep shots, but like you said, Josh, I think there's plenty to go to Monroe as a tight end where, especially if you're in a tight end premium league, like some of these safe leagues and stuff, 4 catches for 20 yards, even if they're all little dump offs or shallow crosses, all of a sudden you're looking at double digits easily. So if you knew it was going to happen, for me, I would probably go with the guy that I've seen do it a little bit more consistently, and I'd start Schultz and take the points on Thursday, and maybe Cooper, even if he plays a little bit limited, or Gallup is still easing back in and stuff. So knowing what we know now, I probably plugged Schultz in myself, but I'm fully prepared to have Monroe outscore him on Sunday.
So yeah, I think it was week 6 that Waller didn't play, and he went 6 for 60 with a touchdown. So
yeah,
he doesn't get out there a lot when Waller is out there, and that's for a very obvious reason. Darren Waller is very good at football, but when he can take the reins, I mean, we've seen it. It was a get. Now, I will preface this by saying it was against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the worst team in fantasy against the tight end. So, the matchup will not be Philadelphia again, unfortunately, for all of our Foster Moreau fans. But let's see. It'll be interesting to find out. And obviously, if Cooper can't play, I do think Schultz is the guy. Hey, well, let's detour from the timeline a little bit. Excuse me. And we got a question here from Smokey the Cat. What's up, guys? Do we play Pollard Thursday or wait on Henderson? And if out, play Sony? All right. First of all, I'm playing Tony Pollard. I'm playing him all day. every day, Thursday, Sunday, Saturday, Tuesday, whatever day he plays, I'm playing him. It seems like the Cowboys, and we'll see if this is talk this Thursday. We'll see if it's talk or if it's really going to happen where they want to pull back from Zeke a little bit, give him less touches, let him rest, let him get healthy for a potential playoff push, or if it's just talk and Zeke is out there every damn snap, blocking and receiving and doing all the stuff that he does. But we've seen this season, even when Zeke is out there all the time, Tony Pollard can get his. Tony Pollard is explosive. We saw the 100-yard kickoff return on Thanksgiving against the Raiders. We know he has that explosion in him. I would play him. Listen, I know a lot of people are on Sony. They're saying if Darrell Henderson gets hurt, Sony can be that guy that comes in and is a flex guy that can get you points. I'm not as high on Sony as I think the community is. Let's see what happens if he has to go out there as the starter with a full complement of snaps, and let's see what he can do. He's been getting worked in and he's looked good, but it's been on a limited basis. It's been, a little bit of time here, a little bit of time there. It's a lot different when you have to go out there and be the man, the starter, and command those type of snaps. So I'm playing Tony Pollard on Thursday. And if Henderson plays, I'll try to figure out what I can do with my lineup to get Henderson in, because I don't want to keep him out. But I'm trying to play both Pollard and Henderson if I can. What about you, Drew?
Yeah, I think initially I would say Pollard pretty easily. I mean, you break down, I don't know, what is it? The average number of plays for an offense right now is like 65, 70 a game. Let's say it's on the low end, 65. Dak throws it 35, 40 times in the game. And maybe Pollard gets a couple of those targets. That leaves a little bit to split between. If they're really scaling back on Zeke, then there's a lot of opportunity there for Pollard. I agree. If you can get both Pollard and Henderson in, great. If you're just stacked at wide receiver and you're just trying to figure out who your RB2 is here, I totally get waiting on Henderson. And, the Rams looked good. And, yeah, I mean, Sony could fall into the end zone pretty easily if Henderson doesn't play, which I get that. But touchdowns are hard to figure out. So I'm looking for guys that, are a big piece. And, Pollard maybe didn't have as much in the regular run of play, but that kickoff return was a great example, a great reminder for, how electric he can be. So I would probably go with Pollard because if you wait, I mean, you're basically saying you're okay with your floor this week being like 2 points. So, yeah.
And I was just looking up Tony Pollard's stats to see what he's been doing lately. 2 out of the last 3 weeks, he's had at least 10 rush attempts and at least 4 targets. So we're talking about a 15 to 20-ish touch guy. And in an offense like that, if they do have their full complement of weapons back, even if he caps out at 15 touches, think about it. You have to account for Cooper. You have to account for Lamb. Dalton Schultz can eat you in the middle of the field if you let him. Zeke is still, Zeke is on the field. You have to account for him. Tony Pollard is what, the 5th guy, the 6th guy, maybe if you want to count Michael Gallup as well. Defenses just can't go that low down the totem pole and try to figure out how to account for that guy. So Tony Pollard, and especially if they decide to up him to more like 20 to 24 touches, we can, we give him more opportunities to break that one big play. And
he's averaging over 5 yards a carry, almost 9 yards per reception. So,
if I was Dallas, I'd try to give him the ball more too.
Good grief.
That's their problem, though. You say, I can say that so easily. I try to give him the ball more, but who are you taking those touches away from Zeke, from CeeDee Lamb, from Omari Cooper. It's just there's only one ball, and it's a tough one. But here's another one from Smokey the Cat. Also, do we play Russell, Taysom, or Tua this week? Tua. We don't have to go into it. We talked about Russell Wilson. It's been doo-doo. Taysom Hill. Okay. I mean, that team has been a dumpster fire the last 3 weeks. It hasn't been good in any respect. I don't know if Taysom Hill has the ability to make it that much better. So go with Tua. He looked pretty good on Sunday, and get that win. Let's hit the next one here. The Dynasty Lefty at the Dynasty Lefty. So pre IR. So I'm assuming he means before. Oh, I think did you just write that in there, Drew?
Yeah, this poll was up there last, I think, Thursday or Friday.
Okay, so this was before he was designated on the injured reserve. Has your view of AJ Brown changed? Needs 385 yards for his third straight 1,000-yard season, which at this point I don't think he is going to get because he is on the injured reserve. But disappointing season for his standards. Where do you have him ranked in Dynasty? Top 5, top 10, top 15. And before I give the poll results, we'll go through this. Drew, you put this on here, so let's get your thoughts and opinions first. Is he a top 5 guy, top 10, or top 15?
My vote on here was top 15, and I've not been as high on him, throughout his career as I think some other folks have been. And the injury doesn't change a whole lot for me. I still think he's a really talented guy, big play. I liked what they tried to do this year by getting Julio in the offense with him and trying to alleviate some of the pressure there. I think he's a very good receiver. I hope he gets healthy. I hope he gets right. I hope it's not like a Todd Gurley thing where he's just got injuries that are going to be, some of the physical limitations that'll just stop him from being really good at his craft. But that said, there are, I would put him between 10 and 15. There are at least 9 to 10 other wide receivers at this point that I would be more comfortable taking and kind of building my team around than him at this point in Dynasty. So even some of these older guys, guys like McLaurin, I would like to have before him at this point, I think. And, you push down a little bit older there. Chase, Jefferson, DK is ahead of him for me, even with Russ's struggles. Lamb is up there in the top 3 for me still. Diggs, Tyreek. I'd still rather have Hopkins than AJ Brown, I think, on my team. So I think he's between 11 and 15 for me.
Yeah, I think for me he's in that top 10, but I think a couple of weeks ago I would have said he was still in the top 5, even with kind of the struggles of this year. But man, this injury stuff is really, and I hate the example that gets brought up with Keenan Allen. Well, everybody said Keenan Allen was injury prone, and look what happened. But we have to look more into what it was with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, he had like a lacerated spleen one year. It was like totally unrelated injuries. We're seeing the same thing from AJ Brown. We're seeing these soft tissue injuries, leg injuries. I mean, it's not like he had, an ankle injury and then he had a shoulder injury and then he had, a lacerated, spleen. They're pretty much all in the same place. They're all the same type of injury. And that scares me. But don't get me wrong. He's so talented. He's so good. When he is on the field, it's just like, whew. You just look at him and you're like, this guy is very, very good at what he does. But it's scary to me, man. It scares me. Yeah, but I think top 10, but I think he's starting to creep towards that lower end of the top 10. So that is my opinion on that. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like all the receivers. I'm trying to go through my head. I mean, you're gonna have your, I think the older guys are still going to play a big part in that top 10. I mean, I think Devontae Adams, unless a tragic injury hits, is going to be in that top 10. You're going to have, um, you're going to have Tyreek Hill in there. You're going to have Jamar Chase is probably in there in that top 10 now.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna so you can just go through.
You got Diggs, McLaurin.
You said DK earlier. I mean, all of a sudden we're just CeeDee Lamb is going to be probably in that top 10. So we just keep talking and we just keep coming up with more. If Calvin Ridley decides to play this year and he has a couple of good games to end the season, he's probably going to be back in that top 10. And we could look around the league and go, oh, that guy. I mean, Cooper Kupp is going to be in the top 10 based on what he did this year. You know what I mean? Like we're just like ping ponging names, and we're not looking at a list. We're not, we don't have rankings in front of us that say who are these guys, but just off the top of our heads, we're just like. And Bill says it all the time. There's 100 receivers. I mean, you can look to any corner and just go, oh, there's a good wide receiver. Oh, there's a good wide receiver. Oh, got another one over there. Like, it's just. I think it's going to be. I don't think AJ Brown will make it into that top 5. I mean, a guy like Debo is probably going to be in the top 10. You know what I mean? Like, I just keep talking and I just keep coming up with names.
I want Deontay before I want AJ Brown at this point.
So there you go. Like, you're a person who say, I want Deontay. I want that guy. And I mean, I can argue it, but I can't call you crazy. I can't say that's a bad take because Deontay plays every game. Like, we talk about like, oh, he had the drops last year. I don't think he has a drop this year. Like, and he's playing with Ben Roethlisberger, who the name has a lot of history and but the man playing this year, he's not good. He's not. He probably is done after this year. He probably retires. He goes and lives on a farm or wherever he lives, and he enjoys the millions of dollars that he's made throughout his NFL career. But he's not good, and we're still talking about, coming into this year, Ryan Tannehill was the man. He was like, we put all, the side-by-sides with him and Patrick Mahomes. Oh, and Ryan Tannehill is better at this stuff, and and it's not that he's not good when he's on the field. It's just that he's not on the field. So what do we do in this situation? Do we just go, no, okay, fine, whatever? Or do we say, listen, I mean, somebody might hit on this lottery ticket, but I don't want to spend a couple of bucks to try to see if I can win the jackpot. I'm going to stay out of it. I found a $5 bill on the floor and I'm just going to put it in my pocket and put it towards something I actually want and not a lottery ticket that might get me absolutely nothing. So, that was a real interesting one. And the poll results, top 5, 25%. So 1 out of every 4 people think that AJ Brown will be a top 5 guy. Or they have him ranked, I should say, they have him ranked as a top 5 guy in Dynasty, which it might be the CMC thing that we spoke about earlier. Like,
remember, this is last week too, so I'm guessing that today these will be a little bit different.
But it was last week, but we can't sit here and act like AJ Brown was lighting the league on fire before being on injured reserve. I think he was having a good season, but I think a lot of the talk was he's always on the injury report. He's always questionable. He's always may not play, and I think there's a lot to say, especially with us as players, as fantasy players. God, we just want that guy that there are no letters next to his name. He is clear. There's no questionable. There's no doubtful. There's no out. It's just clear next to his name. And we go, okay, I know that guy is fully healthy. A guy like, I'll go back to your Buffalo Bills, Stephon Diggs. That man's name is always clear. I don't have to worry about a Q or an O next to his name. He's there every week for me. He can play for me every week. I don't have to go, well, all right, I set my lineup Saturday night, but let me keep my eyes glued on my phone and on TV to make sure that Q doesn't turn into an O, and those are the kind of things that that is a little bit of an added value, I guess, to a player when you don't have to have those kind of worries. Um, so so that I think that does account for a lot, but top 5, 25%. Top 10 where I put them 49%. So it looks like the majority in this poll has him in that top 10 range. And then top 15 where you had him, Drew,
Mhm.
26%. So it's interesting. Top 5 and top 15 are pretty much even, and then everything else flows into that top 10. So it'll be very interesting to see. I can't wait till DLF has December ADP, and we can talk again about where does
Mhm.
CMC end up? Where does excuse me, AJ Brown end up? And we can really talk about it and see what people are thinking now that we see these injuries and we see what's going on. All right, we got time for one more. This is from Mike McGregor at Mike Mack FF. Back in the beginning of August, I traded Miles Sanders, Miles Gaskin, and a 2021 first. I'm assuming he meant a 2022 first.
Or maybe they just did their rookie draft late.
They could have done their draft late um, for JT, and I thought it was an overpay at the time. Um, Mike Mack, I think you had a lot of faith in Miles Sanders and Miles Gaskin, because even I think back in August, I don't think that would have been an overpay. But I get, because I do remember the narratives of, well, he just beat up on bad competition to end 2020, and maybe he's not really that dude. Maybe he's just a guy that can beat up on good matchups. I do remember that narrative. So I can see how you said, it might have been an overpay at the time, but man, it's not an overpay now. And uh the dynasty nerds, they use this saying all the time, and I love it because it's so true. An overpay now could be an underpay later. And if you identify a guy, if you identify a JT, if you identify even a guy I think who is going to be really good next year, J.K. Dobbins, if you identify him now on the injury and you pay more than what his value now is, and he blows up like I think he's going to blow up, it's an underpay. Because now, imagine you have Miles Sanders, Miles Gaskin, and we'll even call it a 2023 first round pick, because those things are already worth their weight in gold. And you offer that to someone for JT, they're probably going to laugh in your face, say something insulting about your mother, and tell you to never offer them a trade again. And August, I mean, August feels like years ago, but August was just a few short months ago. And now that deal looks ridiculous.
Mhm.
You wouldn't even attempt to send someone that offer, because you would look at it and go, this person is gonna curse me out if I send them this. Probably be the fastest reject you ever see. You probably actually won't even click the button to send it, and you'll see the rejection email come in, because that's how fast it will be. So, identify your guys. Like I said the day, I shouldn't say the day after, I think it was the week after the NFL draft 2 years ago, I said in 2 to 3 years, CeeDee Lamb is going to be a top 3 dynasty wide receiver. I said that because that's what I truly believed in that offense with the other players that they had around. And next year, CeeDee Lamb has a shot of being a top 3 wide receiver. He may not be, he might be top 5, but he's going to be in that upper echelon of dynasty wide receivers. That's why I got him in as many places as I could. And some people liked him just as much as me, and they weren't going to give him up without, even at that time, they weren't going to give him up without, getting a king's ransom. But I got him in a lot of places because I identified that early. And listen, sometimes it blows up in your face. Another guy I love, Brian Edwards, got him in a lot of places too. Not working out so well. But, when you get those hits, when you get those CeeDee Lamb type hits, it puts your team in at another level because you're identifying these things early and you're capitalizing really probably when value is like the lowest. Like JT's value was probably the lowest right after the season, just because even though he had dominated, we had said, oh, he just beat up on bad teams. What do you think? What do you think about Mike Mack's trade here? About just the larceny he pulled off.
Man, he did good. He did good. And again, depending on the league format, the only thing that I could think of right now, what if that was truly a 2021 first, and maybe it was Najee? I'd still want JT. It was Jamar Chase. That's where it gets a little bit more interesting for me. To want Chase and the miles and miles, like I couldn't care less about those two. But for a long-term, top end asset at his position, maybe that 2021 first. I hope whoever got this trade and gave JT up, I hope you at least got Jamar Chase as your consolation prize. Because if you got anybody else in that first round, you're kicking yourself.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if this is a tight end premium and you got Kyle Pitts,
maybe
you feel okay with it, but God, JT is that dude, man. I mean, in non-super flex leagues, in 1 QB leagues, he's gonna be the 101. I mean, barring a terrible injury, and I even hate saying it, but we have to bring it up. Barring something like that, he's gonna be the 101.
Yeah,
I mean,
next couple seasons.
And the funny thing is, I don't know if there is a guy in a dynasty startup that you go, that guy can compete with JT for 101. He's kind of assumed the Christian McCaffrey mantle of here's the 101. You can fight for whatever's left at 102. Because then you can probably bring a lot of guys' names up at 102 that you go, I can see taking this guy, I can see taking that guy, blah, blah, blah. But at 101, it's JT. And even in Superflex, JT is going to be the first non-quarterback taken.
Yep.
Unless you're, maybe you're playing in a 2 tight end league or a 2.0.
It would have to be so skewed.
Something like that, or 2.0 tight end premium or something like that, where maybe a tight end goes. But I mean, besides leagues like that are a little bit more maybe extreme, there is JT all day. JT all
well
day.
Done, sir. Well done.
So that's it from us, Drew. I feel like we did good. We had the layoff. We weren't in tryptophan comas, so we were not sluggish. We were hitting them. Glad to be back, man. Glad
so
to
good.
See you again. Glad to see the chat again. And I want to thank everybody that was in the chat, man. I say it every week. When the chat is popping, it just makes the show more fun. I love answering these questions because we don't get time to plan answers. The stuff on the show sheet, we can look into stats if we want to. We can look into trades and ADP and all that kind of stuff. But in the chat, you're getting our honest kind of first come, first serve view at it, and we tell you what we really think. So thank you guys. To everyone in the chat and everybody that's watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the bell, subscribe, do all that stuff so that you know when we come on, so that we can talk with y'all can talk with us, and it can just be a lot of fun. If you're listening, if you're doing a podcast thing, appreciate it. People's schedules are crazy. Sometimes 9 o'clock on a Wednesday just doesn't work. You hit us the next morning, the next day, whenever. Just make sure whatever podcast directory you use, rate us. If you just kind of tripped on us and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, because that's important to us. And also hit us up with a review, because those are so important. They get us out in front of more people, and that's what we want to do. We want to talk to as many people as possible, and have fun doing this with as many people as possible. So, Drew, my man, we are out of here.
Late.